Hello, I'm Loren Sederstrom, and I'm the host of the All Around Grant Show. Today, I have my normal guest with me, Larry Lanou, and I also have a special guest, Eric Langness, CD6 Vice Chair. Well, welcome both of you to the show.
Thank you.
We have another packed show today, ladies and gentlemen, as we usually do. We move at a fairly fast pace. And the fluff we're going to start with this week is one of the things about Grant. It's a rural area, and everybody comes out there to pursue a dream, whether it's a rock garden, a regular garden, horses, whatever it is, dogs, raising dogs or animals. Today we're going to visit with a man that has an asphalt go-kart track because that was his passion. And we're going to show him and talk with him. He's a twice cancer survivor, a very positive attitude. So if Control Room could play that clip. Enjoy their passions, whether it's raising llamas, horses, rock gardening, regular gardening. Some people have orchards out here. Some people develop their own natural areas. Today we're going to be visiting with Bill David. How are you doing, Bill?
Great.
And one of the things Bill has always wanted is he had a passion for go-karts. He wanted one like many of us. We didn't have the things we had when we were little kids. So when we get in our second childhood, we developed these things. So Bill, why don't you tell us how you arrived at developing a go-kart track?
Yep, when I was a young kid, I always had a go-kart and played around with it. It wasn't much of a go-kart compared to today, but you know, when you ran out of a spring out there in the country to make the throttle return, you had to improvise. We used rubber bands, whatever you could find. You know, you always, if it meant a flat tire filling it with oats to make it go around, you did whatever you could do, you know. You talk about when you had your, one of the Maytag engines.
Maytag engine, yes. We pushed it, we had direct drive and we pushed it off a log, which was great, and to stop it, we would shut off the gas. Well, that worked great one day till I shut it off, going towards the neighbor's garage, and it didn't shut off, and I did a U-turn and came back out.
There've been a few U-turns out here, Lauren. We had a fun day yesterday. We were out here. It's been 8 years since we started, but the track, I put it in 2001 as something to do. I had the equipment. I've always had a passion for it, loved it. We put it in first in gravel. We played on it for a season and changed the shape about 3 different times to the track, expanding and growing it until we acquired what we've got today here. It's about 750 feet around it, about 12 to 14 feet wide with hairpins and bank turns, left, right turns. It's kind of a fun track. You know, we put down some recycle and packed it in there, and it was just, we were getting blasted with gravel in our face. So we got irritated and called down and rented a asphalt paver and a roller, and I had the trucks. We put them on hauling asphalt one Friday. I and a couple of buddies put down, we got 125 ton down here now of asphalt. The track's holding up real well. We're having, you know, races every Sunday, barbecuing, and it's gotten to be more of kids and grandkids learning how to drive, and parents growing up saying, boy, when my kid was out in a snowstorm driving on her first license, I didn't worry. You know?
Well, that's part about your philosophy of never growing up. Want to expound on that?
Yeah, that's out in the end of the yard there. The never grow up is the theme around the Davids here. We had some good friends die at young ages, and it's not right. So we carved it in the rock. Never grow up. Always have fun. Stay young.
Yeah, you have to seize the moment. You never know if things can expand unexpectedly. It was an interesting day yesterday. I understand you even had an old MG on the track.
Yeah, we had we had the neighbor come down with the MG. I think I know that guy.
I heard he's kind of an outlaw.
Yeah, he's the same guy I think had a Maytag engine on his go-kart.
Okay, well, thanks, Bill. I'm glad you're sharing the story. And again, it's never grow up, engage your passions. And the point of that is that's what the city of Grant is about. It's all rural. And the other thing I want to talk to you a little bit about is the tractor parade. And you were instrumental in getting that started. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the tractor parade, that starts from when I was a kid. Before I had my license, I worked all summer, and for payment they gave me a tractor, an old wore-out tractor that barely ran. And so I've had a passion for tractors. I've grown up on the farm, and here in Grant we had issues with, you know, nobody gets to see their neighbor. You don't know who your neighbors are half the time, or the neighbor on the other side of the road. You know, you just don't see them. We don't.
Well, part of that is because half the students go to Stillwater and the other half go to Mahtomedi. In most rural communities, the school and a couple of restaurants are the center of social activity, and out here we're kind of divided.
We are a divided community with school districts, you know, and representation of only one school district in our city council represents the whole Mahtomedi school district. We don't have anybody representing the Stillwater school district on our council currently. But you know, that's a whole different issue. The tractor parade, you know, came about 4 years ago. We came up with the idea of a community event. I know our mayor in the past has tried to have civic picnics and hasn't been successful. We've been doing well with the tractor parade. We get about 85 participants each year, and we feed between 500 and 700 people a year for free at the Gast House after the parade. You know, and it's fun. It's about a 4-mile loop the parade takes from the Gast House up around the town hall and back, and it's just a good fun time.
Well, what's unique about this parade also is all the contestants, because they pass each other, get a chance to see everything that's in the parade. You do the Manitou Days parade or the White Bear Avenue parade, and you don't see anybody because you just see the person behind you and in front of you.
Yeah, it's fun when you go down the route and about halfway down, all of a sudden you're seeing the lead of the parade coming back at you. You get to see the whole parade return. So if you're in the parade, you see the parade. It's really a fun event, you know.
And we're featuring that later. On all around Grant, we're going to do the whole 40 minutes of the parade, so people can see the wonderful civic event. And how many different people said, older folks said, "Hey, well, I thought you died. I didn't know you were still here."
Yeah, you get that every year. I think there's always somebody different out there that you meet or see or hear about, you know, and geez, I haven't seen you forever, or where have you been, you know, I heard you died, or, you know, it's just fun. We don't have an Eagles and Elks Alliance, you know, we don't even have a Chamber of Commerce here in Grant. We don't have anybody to greet and meet newcomers coming into Grant. So this tractor parade kind of serves some of that purpose.
Well, sometimes we have mountain lions going through, and I had an eagle land in my sacrifice area, but you're talking about the civic organizations, aren't you?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Bill. I appreciate your input. Any last word?
Well, if you got a passion, follow it. Just remember, never grow up.
There we go. And I said I wasn't going to say there we go. Well, now I want to set you up for the next clip, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, that was our fluff piece. We're going to shift gears. We're going to talk about the city of Grant, and I'm going to keep this one fairly short. But as you know, the mayor disbanded the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission, as you know, is the one that reviews applications for people building and reviews ordinance changes. Well, in his infinite wisdom, he got rid of the Planning Commission. Well, now they're going to amend one of the ordinances, in other words, allowing bars and supper clubs in A2 or agricultural areas. So he says the next clip they're going to say amend N to C, which means N is non-compliant and C is compliant. So, and one of the things the Met Council said is they didn't want to see leapfrog development. But the mayor has kind of taken things into his own hands, has his own attitude. And that's what this is about. So that's the setup for this piece. So if control room can play the next clip.
Statement, if you intend to make additional changes or direct staff to bring some proposed draft language back, I think it would be a good idea to keep the public hearing open or to continue it so that the public had the opportunity to review that language and provide additional comment. If that's not your intent to direct staff to do that or to bring some additional language forward, then I think closing it is perfectly appropriate. So,
Jeff. I just want to point out, Mr. Mayor, that we all did not think that this was a good idea to have the supper club definition here and to do a text amendment. As pointed out here, why country clubs are currently allowed with the CUP within this zoning district, I always thought that that was a better description of the activity here and allowed us to take on the country club definition like I think this council ought to have. That said, the applicant has presented us with a supper club text amendment here, and certainly we need to move forward on that, but I did want to make it clear that I do not agree with the supper club as some of the rest of the council did. So,
and just what I specifically said is that we in general agreed with the application of what he wanted to do. Whether or not it's a supper club or a country club, that can be debated. But the issue right now is really, as far as to David's point though, really the only thing we're really thinking about doing is changing supper club from A1 in business to add A2. So there shouldn't be a lot of language or anything like we had in the last one, right? I mean, how much language would there be, I guess is my question. What language would we be looking at if it would come back?
Well, it's dependent on your determination as to whether or not you think there needs to be additional clarification with respect to lot sizes, frontage on roads, access points, those types of things. If you feel that that's not necessary, then very little. What you have in front of you is essentially changing an N to a C,
Right.
you know, and so there's not a lot of detail that goes into that, so.
Okay, and then,
Once again, no detail. We've got 5 council members sitting up there. Only one is actually served on a planning commission. None of the 5 have taken a planning course. That's why we should have a planning commission back in place, and the charter commission is going to address that.
Well, that's good. Okay, we're now going to go on to the next one. If we could, control room, play the next clip, please, and we'll talk on the other side.
the only thing on this one is, I feel like I'm danged if I do and I'm danged if I don't. So I would think, and last year we also had the issue with all the snow. So I have a suggestion for a roadside cleanup. I think the city should still provide a dumpster. I think we should put it on the website. I think we should put it in the newsletter that we're gonna have multiple days that we could do it. And that we bring the dumpster to the town hall, we provide it, we put it on the website, the exact day when we know. We put in the newsletter, these are the days when it could happen in the spring newsletter. And then we do that. If, you know, and I just think we leave that position open. And if anybody wants to pitch in, they can. If they don't, they don't. I mean, I don't know if that many people showed up last year, and I just don't know. Maybe it's time has come. So anyway, go ahead.
You know, I've participated in that event for several years now, and I think you've got 2 people in the audience. You've got Bill David, Larry Lanou, and you've even got Loren Sederstrom. I think he's still here. They've all been instrumental in the real successful pickup days that we've had. I would ask them, maybe have them come up to the mic and see if they'd be interested, any of them or all of them, in taking this over from Joyce, because it was a lot for Joyce this year to deal with.
And what I'm saying is, and to your point about, you know, maybe we don't put everybody on here, they can do whatever they want. I just don't want to put anybody on roadside cleanup day. I just want to leave it open.
But if you put somebody on, it gives them that expectation that we expect them to organize it and promote it.
Yeah.
And I know that these guys, any one of them, will do an excellent job. They've proven it multiple times. They've got me out there picking up garbage, and that's quite a feat.
Okay, well, I'll ask the council then. Tina, go ahead.
That's what happened to roadside cleanup. We have too much on to show you pictures from prior ones, but we would have 40 people out there, but there'd be 8 or 10 routes, there'd be adults and a couple kids, and making it a community event. Then they'd come back and have hot dogs and hot chocolate, and it was a community spirit event. It's called Bringing the Community Together. It's also helping young people develop citizenship, which I did in my high school career.
Lauren, if I can, quick, and just jump in here on this. One of the things that Tom Carr says, maybe this is a event that's run its course. And I'll guarantee you, just as they have run 4-H out of the city of Grant, 50-year history, the Grant Soil Savers, he feels that, and the 4-Hers came for many years and helped clean our ditches. It was part of what they did to earn community service. So I don't believe, I agree with the mayor that it's something that's run its course. I think what we should have seen, and we didn't see last year when they had their cleanup, I didn't see the mayor or any council members leading by example. And they did not involve our youth. It would have been a great opportunity for the Boy Scout 4-H to do your civic community service. So it's not something that's run its course. It's something they no longer wish to participate. In fact, they haven't participated in.
They're slowly killing some of those activities. Well, so that's just a flavor of some of the things that are going on. Of course, when you don't want to sit through a boring 3-hour city council meeting, and part of the function of what I'm doing is trying to show you the high points and connecting the dots.
Or the low points.
And there's quite a few of those, I might add. So the next thing, we're going to be talking about conditional use permits and having them monitored, because there are conditions. If you have a special use like a horse farm or whatever, you have to meet certain requirements, And if we could play the next clip, please.
9280 Joliet, City of Grant, not Montemedi. First of all, I want to thank you for having a public comments here, and seeing that this is the only place that we can do it within our city. This is the only organization that lets you have your public comments. But the number one thing that I have that I'd like to see added somehow, somewhere in the charter, is the conditional use permits, or CUPs, that they be more regulated. In other words, we have a tremendous building out here called Wildwood Elementary, which has a CUP attached to it, but none of the regulations that were placed with the CUP are being followed. Now, I brought it to the council's attention once, and I talked to the mayor directly on another occasion, and that's where these vehicles are coming out from the school onto Jamaica. And they're not supposed to be coming out through a little area, not where the buses come out. There's a little area on the side. And today, a van came out of there and lost control and came across the path. And who was sitting there that was right in the path? Myself. Now, the city is going to leave themselves open because I have said to them, one, you've got to control that. Now, I think the Planning Commission, or the Charter Commission should make it a point in the charter that if they're not going to regulate the school, don't regulate any other CUPs within the cities that you're placing on people, because it's a joke then. I'm very serious about this because 3 times now I've had this happen to me, and no one seems to find it important enough to even notify the Washington County Sheriffs, which have nothing to do with CUPs. They didn't place it on that school, nor did the state of Minnesota. It was our city that did it, and they're not enforcing it. And I think that the commission needs to be the one to say, councils, this is what you have to do.
There. That is an interesting perspective from Mr. Engelhardt. And now we're going to shift gears a little bit. And there's a lot been happening around nationally and locally regarding the environment. And if I could bring a newspaper article out of the St. Paul Pioneer Press, and Plume may return to Superfund list, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. The area around West Lakeland Township and Bayport should be put on the state's list of Superfunds for the second time. Okay. There's traces of volatile organic compounds believed to be a chemical degreasing agent dumped. TCE, that's the same thing that was down in the Como area of southeast Minneapolis. Until recently, the problem is largely solved, skipping down, but the State Department of Health changed the guidelines. The department slashed the allowable level of the chemicals to 0.04 parts per billion, less than 1/10 the previous allowable level. So what we're seeing countrywide is these brownfields and these plume areas are being listed because the levels that they previously thought were safe were not. Now, we've chronicled this on my other shows. I also did Malibu, California, and we currently have a bill in the legislature right now, 957 in the House of Representatives, 775 in the Senate, to notify parents because it's their right to know. As a matter of fact, out of the Montemedi newsletter that comes out there, they print parents' right to know. Notice concerning the use of pest control materials, pesticide and herbicide notice, asbestos, and indoor air quality. So they have to tell you if they have asbestos in the ceiling, but currently they don't have to tell you that the school is built on a former Superfund site. In the 5th day of school this year, they had an evacuation of the school and sent the kids home when the alarms went off, in which they promptly canceled both the police and fire calls. And had I not reported it on another show, it would have never been brought to the attention of the public. So that's one of the things I want to talk about. Something else I want to briefly touch on, and so you folks can get some of this information yourself. It's called CERC Online, State Environmental Research Resource Center, Healthy Schools, Toxic Building Sites. And I'm just going to hit on the main things that are in this. It's an 8-10 page thing that you can look up. You can also, there's another one that is much more complete, Schools in a Toxic Site. But what this says, school siting, one of the reasons they have the problem is schools have lack of money, okay? There's a budget crunch, so if they decide to go cheap, if they can get a 60 or 70% discount from land that's been a previous landfill, they jump on it because they can put more money in staff and materials. Well, that's short-term poor thinking. And it's also a failure of regulatory system and science. Again, we're seeing the science being amended. The school boards aren't really accountable. I mean, they have off-year elections, et cetera, et cetera. They also talk about brownfields in schools. They talk about, again, against this parents' right to know, how parents are kept in the dark. They don't tell them, which is what our bill will in fact correct, because any school that's within a quarter mile of a dump site, they must notify parents. Okay, then the last thing, three things they talk about is child's special vulnerabilities. First of all, on a pound per pound basis, they take in more air, food, and water or drink per pound than adults do. The second thing about children is they have immature systems that are less able to handle toxins. And the other thing is they have more time to develop a disease. Like that clip we've shown here before several times about Tennessee and Erin Brockovich, and Larry's going to be talking about that in a minute, where the 30 girls at their 20-year high school reunion discovered they all had the same brain cancer. They couldn't find answers. They went to Erin Brockovich, and she did research and found out the school was built on or next to a toxic waste site. So these are some things to be aware. And again, that second article is called Building Safe Schools, Invisible Threats and Visible Actions. 20 states have no policies at all regarding putting schools on a safe site. So now I'm going to hand it over to Larry, and he's going to talk about Erin Brockovich and the work she's doing and how we've been working with her for the last 3 years to try to get this situation addressed.
Well, I've got a letter here written from Erin Brockovich to myself, and it says, I would not advise building an elementary school on land that requires vapor intrusion and completely agree that this would be unwise. How is it that this project moved forward anyway? I will review the Superfund site you sent by link and will give you my thoughts in a more detailed email. So before they even built this school, I was on a conference call with Governor Dayton and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and they asked me, what is Erin Brockovich is concerned with Wildwood Elementary? And I said, it's simple. I said, there's no monetary value for her to get involved in this at all. I said, she'd simply like to be known for trying to prevent an illness rather than allowing one to happen. And they still didn't hold off and determine that it's a safe site. We don't have that. So later on, a year later, and we've been working on it for a while, that was in 2012. In 2013, letter goes out to Representative Detmer, and it talks about these brownfield sites that they're putting on. It's an increase in frequent scenarios regulatory agencies reevaluate, such as the Superfund site that's just being brought back out. Is that from things that were actions taken years ago continue to be sufficiently protective of human health and environment. Many situations, it's likely that these sites will be reopened and polluters will be forced to take additional remedial actions to address vapor intrusion and other issues. Literally hundreds of closed, no further action sites have been reopened. So I think what he stated a little over a year ago is exactly what you're seeing in the paper that just came out in its last week or so here. And one of the last deals we got just sent out here recently by Bob Balcox, the one that you might have seen at the General Mills site coming up here, says, why chance it? He says, Erin and I would love to come work on this bill. It's always been our policy to prevent exposure to cancerous environments whenever possible. The best cure for cancer is prevention, awareness, and early detection. Your bill addresses all three. So they're in support of this bill. They'll come down and work on it, and I applaud. I mean, there's no monetary value for them to come. They get requests from all over not only our country, other countries that come. So for them to put this kind of time and effort shows that we have a legitimate bill on the floor, and I encourage you to call your legislators and tell them to support Senate File 775, House File 957.
Well, the other thing I want to show, you probably can't see this very well, but this is that General Mills plume that was in the news less than a month ago. There's been several articles. And if you can see how far it's traveled from here down to here, that points out that those toxins travel. And that is going to be a subject of a couple of the clips we have coming up. Okay, the other thing is I want to point out is we have this list of schools on a dump site. Wildwood makes it the dirty dozen. We now have 12 schools that are on toxic waste sites. And I'm not talking about just like if there was a little dump in the country somewhere where they put a couple wash machines, a refrigerator, and construction debris. We're talking about toxic sites with TCEs, PCBs, heavy metals, those types of things, those unregulated dumps that people weren't aware were dangerous, like the Bel Air sanitation that went from 1954 through 1995. But shifting onward, what we're going to do is we're going to go back again to the Charter Commission and have we have someone coming up to the microphone and talking about public comment. Remember, Grant no longer has a planning commission which had public comment. They've eliminated public comment from the City Council, and they won't even let the Charter Commission meet in the City Hall, so they have to go to Mahtomedi, the neighboring. And one of the things the Charter will include is public comment. Now, it doesn't take that much time. There's been a lot of distortions. If you have 12 minutes, the beginning of each meeting, to have people come up and make a short public comment to make the council aware of something that's going on in the cities, it will not, that 12 minutes will not detract from the council being able to achieve their work, especially when they spend 45 minutes talking about how to chain down an outhouse. I mean, they need to work on their efficiency perhaps, rather than cutting out public comment. So if we could play the next clip, control room.
33 80th Street. This is interesting. Thank you for having this public comment. Here are two examples of something that should be brought forth to the City Council. Now, I hope this public comment can be transferred over to, if we do the charter and go through with charter government, to the ability for these people to come up and express their concerns in front of our City Council, which has the jurisdiction for this stuff, not the Charter Commission that's sitting here today. But the opportunity for them to speak is important, and maybe can get transferred over to an agenda with the City Council. So I'm hopeful of that. Thanking everybody that's here tonight for their work on the Charter Commission, and for those that are not here for their steadfastness. I've been gone, so I haven't been here for some of these meetings. I hope to get some of the recordings that are available, except for last week, I guess, but maybe I can get a transcript and catch up on that. So thanks.
Another resident that's appreciative of public comment. He was a former Planning Commission member, was served for a number of years on that. So that was very important. And what he was talking about are the next two clips that I'm going to have up. I'm going to start with the first one, and it's self-explanatory. But again, it talks about this pollution that they're continuing to find, the plumes that are growing. They thought they remediated this. And also the inaction of several governmental agencies that, hey, that's not my problem. So if we could play the next clip, please, control room.
Dewuski. I'm a resident of Mahtomedi and a concerned citizen of the community. Would you like my address for the record?
Yes, please.
170 View Road, Mahtomedi.
Okay.
Tonight I'd like to address two issues. First one would be with the new Wildwood Elementary School, and the second one would be with pollution issues related to my real property, to see if they could be related. I have in front of me the White Bear Press dated November 27th, and I was rather shocked when the front headline said 4 more lakes listed as impaired. The lake that I'm talking about is Lost Lake, right as you come through town on Highway 244. For the past several years, the neighbors and I have partnered with the City of Mahtomedi and the Metropolitan Council to do camps testing on Lost Lake. Prior testing results showed no evidence of mercury contamination. This means we have not had any red flags show up on mercury problems, just nutrients and phosphorus. When this water leaves my property, which is a large section of Lost Lake, it flows into White Bear Lake. This concerns me. I fear White Bear Lake may also be contaminated with this mercury as well as my drinking water. Where can I obtain copies of the pre- and post-construction data regarding the pollution with the old Bel Air dump and the new Wildwood Elementary School? Where can I find out what chemicals were removed and are present today? Where can I find out how much toxic soil was removed from the former dump site? And is the School District 832 honoring its conditional use permit to test for pollutants? When is the testing recommended? How often? Where are the monitoring wells located? And exactly what are they testing for? When was the testing last done? I did make several phone calls last week attempting to get answers to some of my questions, but I didn't have any success. The DNR said they knew nothing about mercury, but directed me to notify the Rice Creek Watershed District. The Department of Health said they could only tell me about healthy consumption levels, and the MPCA said mercury is airborne and that they would get back to me. As of today, January 16th, they have not. Could these new pollution issues be related to the former Bel Air dump and the new mercury levels located on my property? And I have a copy for...
Interesting. A concerned citizen coming forward. I have another clip, and this is going to be even more interesting. But to update you on that, I was aware they take 550 tons of polluted soil out, I believe, Larry, and they took it to Ohio and Idaho.
Idaho and Ohio for disposal.
And basically, what it eliminated, now the dump was in session from 1954 through 1995, and as one of the people testified at the Planning Commission, that's less than one truckload a year for every year it was in service. And there were trucks going in and out of there all the time. XL Energy put in PCBs. 3M put in things like TCE cleaning solutions. Gopher Oil. Towsley Ford, their chemicals from the body shops and whatnot. Gopher Oil, as a matter of fact, there was a Supreme Court case against Gopher Oil where they were told, well, you can sell the company, but if you sell the assets, you also sell the liabilities, because they were trying to get out of the liability for this by going from the Gopher Oil to sell their assets to the new Gopher Oil, and there was a Supreme Court decision on that. But anyway, there's no wells on this particular Wildwood site, and there have been no tests done, though there have been directions. The only tests have been compaction, and we did have the MPCA out there to check the water, and they ran one test for one chemical. Considering there's 80,000 chemicals, I would not say that's a complete, and the MPCA does none of their own testing. So we're going to go on to the second one, the same man adding some other information, and you'll find this information also very interesting on a different type of pollution.
Have noted in the record that I've been at previous Matamidi City Council meetings when that school has been addressed. The one meeting in particular that I do recall, a couple individuals did get up and speak about the track and field and the lacrosse fields. They had samples that they brought with debris that came to the surface. The Matamidi City Council looked at each other and said that's a grant issue, and that's as far as it went. Okay. So I think the city of Matamidi probably doesn't want to touch it.
Okay.
That turns out to be very interesting. Hey, not in my backyard, it ain't my problem. Go down the road. So again, this is a real issue. We have public officials that are ignoring it. We have agencies that are ignoring it. And that's why it's very important that we get to this bill. Okay, now we have another clip to run, and after that, Eric wants to make a couple comments. So, control room, if you could run the next clip, please.
Lisa Paddock. The address is 10025 Keswick Avenue. My family and I have lived there for 10 years. Two things briefly. The first, I would like to thank each of you as a token gesture, but I really sincerely want to thank each of you for your efforts for establishing and attempting to establish the Grant Charter Commission for the stronger balance between the city governing body and voters. I think that it's very important for us as voters. It's inspiring and hopeful for us. And I wanted to say thank you. Just as a side note, I was thinking I have two professional women friends who follow politics and government, and they have asked me in the past, they're in Minneapolis, and they have asked me in the past, don't you get tired of living in Grant with the unruly Grant council meetings, and isn't that just craziness? And I looked at them and I said, that is not Grant at all. The heart of Grant is the community, the residents. The heart of Grant is the people who come together for community events such as September Tractor Parade. You'll see 100 tractors coming together in a line, and then 600 residents in a community of 4,000 coming for a picnic lunch. And so those people coming together, the businesses making donations, it's just heartwarming. It really is to have a community event like that coming together. And for me, that is the city of Grant, and that's the heart of Grant. But the other issue I wanted to address is how valid and important it is to have a public comment, for us as voters to have an avenue. As evidenced tonight, very real, important issues being addressed. They don't have the avenue to be addressed at the city council currently, so I appreciate that you're offering public comment here. The last time I attempted to make a public comment at the city council meeting was in September for our GRP Heritage Day Parade, and it was notified at the beginning of the meeting that it was going to be put at the very end of the meeting. There would be an opportunity for public comment, and that could be a good 3 hours, and I just at that time didn't have the time to wait for public comment, and pretty much you're told as a citizen you're at the very end and maybe even off record. So I just wanted to thank you for your efforts here, for having us, our voters, have a voice, and for having a public comment here. Thank you.
You know, you both know that I'm a recovering school board member, and when I was on the school board, one of the ways that I was able to tell if we were doing our job or hearing the right things was how much public comment we got back. And I welcomed it. It appears that the council here in Grant is so arrogant that they believe that they are the only ones that will ask the right questions or have the right answers for things. And it appears you've got some awesome citizens in your city that are bringing forward some great ideas. And it would be a tragedy if they were to even consider losing that opportunity.
Well, as you can see, Eric, the only place we allow public comment, and I encourage the citizens to come forward to our Charter Commission meeting. It's the third Thursday of the month. Come to the Matamidi City Hall so that you can have public comment for the city of Grant, because we do not allow it in our city. You have to go to the neighboring city to express your opinions of our city.
Well, I think the philosophy of Mayor Carr was summed up at the Black Box Theater at the last campaign, in which I ran and lost by 10 votes after they trucked in 2 trucks from the Cedar Ridge Treatment Center. And also, there was an October surprise where one of the councilmen got the students that had graduated the previous spring to vote absentee vote for their top of the ticket. So that was very interesting. But he said, well, the city speaks and the residents can stay home if they elect me because I'll run the city for them. I paraphrase that. Well, it's really interesting. And now he's gets rid of the planning commissions, making major draconian changes to the ordinances regarding where you can place bars and whatnot. I mean, it's a power grab. Grant is a city. It isn't a fiefdom, and that's a problem that we're dealing with. So let's go on. I think the next comment kind of ties into this one. So control room, can we play the next one?
Was the article in St. Paul Pioneer Press about Grant trying to rein in public comment. And as you've seen today, it took a short period of time. They say they can't run their meeting. I was interviewed for that very article. And they said, we're taking away valuable time away from the city council doing their business by allowing public comment. And many of us remember when they took out the 2-minute egg timer and 3 people got up to speak, and of course they barely could get their thought process going, and the egg timer went off and they were asked to sit down. And so when 3 people got up to speak, it took 6 minutes of the city council's time. That very same meeting, we talked for 45 minutes about whether we could chain down the outhouse, couldn't make a decision, turn it over to our city attorney, and I still don't believe we've got a determination back yet, and the outhouse is still not chained down. So I don't see where public comment is a detriment to there, and I see the Pioneer Press was very eager to pretty much slant their articles stating that the citizens of Grant got up there and lied at a January meeting when they didn't take the time to go back, review the tape, and see what was. Now, this is not the first time Mayor Carr stated that we have lied up at public comment. In fact, it's been disproven in the White Bear Press, and if we followed up on the Pioneer Press. So don't take everything you read in the press at face value. Okay. I don't think they've done their journalism.
Okay.
That was rather interesting. In fact, I've been called a liar in the White Bear Press. I've been called a liar. I directly confronted, if you remember, 1 or 2 of my shows ago, telling them that anything that I use on my show is directly from the official city copy of the city council meetings, unedited. Low-tech Loren doesn't know how to edit. I'm lucky to get the clips made, folks. And it's backed up by their minutes. And I had a 4-minute ramble challenging them and then the best they could come up with, well, you should call and ask us our intentions. Well, I said, if you don't mean it, if you don't mean what you're going to say, then don't say it. Say it differently. Know what you're talking about. I don't need an interpreter. But we're going to shift gears now, and this is what I'm prepping for next time is that the chair has to send a letter at the end of each year to the judge that oversees the Charter Commission. So if Control Room could play this, please. This is the letter that she has sent. It's very informative, I might add.
Heard the letter that was sent to Judge Hoffman, December 19th, 2013. The Honorable John C. Hoffman, Chief Judge of the 10th Judicial District, Washington County Government Center, 14949 62nd Street North, Stillwater, Minnesota, 55082, 3802. Grant Charter Commission Year-End Report. Your Honor, it is my privilege to send you a report of the progress of the City of Grant Charter Commission pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 410.05, Subdivision 2, that has been made in 2013. We had a meet and greet gathering at the Bavarian Gasthaus in the City of Grant to acquaint ourselves with the members on June 3rd, 2013. At a public meeting June 10th, 2013, we organized ourselves with an election of officers and a procedural manual for operation. Officers elected by the group are Barbara Kelly, Chair, Larry Lanou, Vice Chair, Paul Rogacheski, Secretary, and Steve Bonin, Treasurer. Recording Secretary is Kathy Schwartz. At this time, we requested meeting space in the Grant City Hall. At the July 2nd City Council meeting, Paul Rogacheski requested the availability for the commission. It was denied. We also requested video recordings of the meetings by the suburban community channels by the City of Grant. It also was denied. We proceeded with recordings by a private citizen with his equipment. We continued to meet at the Gasthaus once a month until September, when we were then able to meet in Mahtomedi City Hall. The storing of the minutes, meeting information, and correspondence for the Data Practice Act will be with the chair. Notices of the meetings will be in the community calendar with the Lowdown, White Bear Press, City Gazette, Stillwater Gazette, and the City of Grant website. We have no funds to make public notices. In August, the City of Montemita offered their City Hall due to the denial of the City of Grant for the Charter Commission use. The City of Grant was requested to furnish a good faith damage deposit to the City of Montemita, which they denied to do. It was suggested that a private citizen donate the deposit. It was approved by the city and later denied. The City of Montemita accepted a private citizen payment held in escrow. Due to the calendar of Montemita, we changed our meeting dates to what was available for their chambers. At this time, the chair contracted with a sign company for nameplates to match the Montemita signage. The City of Grant was requested to pay for these. A letter from the City of Grant attorney, Nick Vivian, was sent to the chair being placed on notice for a violation of the law by purchasing the signage. According to City Attorney Vivian, we will receive no funds from the City of Grant for any expenses except the actual printing of the charter or legal advice. At the same time, the chair also received a letter from Attorney Vivian that the commission was in violation of the open meeting law. Again, he threatened a lawsuit against the chair. If you would like copies of the letters, I will furnish them. At this time, we have a partial charter finalized that consists of names and boundary, public engagement, powers of the city, elective officers, initiative, recall, referendum, the police department, the fire department, taxation, and finances. At the December meeting, we did set our calendar for 2014, the third Thursday of each month. Respectfully submitted, Barbara Kelly, Chair, City of Grant Charter Commission. I did hear from Judge Hoffman in which he requested copies of the letters from Attorney Vivian, and I did furnish those to the judge.
Well, that's some of the progress that you can see the charter has been on the Charter Commission. They have really accomplished quite a bit in a short time, but I feel sorry for the chair because it's kind of like rolling a huge snowball uphill for her. I mean, she's met with more than a little resistance. You know, this isn't the whole council that feels this way. If we can go to the next clip, and Hit sums it up with another councilman that's on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for that very detailed letter to the judge. I know that took quite a bit of time to put that all together. I think it's extremely accurate, and it depicts the situation pretty well. And it's, for me, it's a little bit embarrassing that the city council will not allow us to meet in our own council chambers. And I'm very thankful to Montemita to allow us to meet here. This is a beautiful space that they're allowing us to use, and I would like to make sure they all know that we appreciate this space until we can work out something in our own city to have our meetings where they should be.
Right.
Well, that probably isn't going to happen. The quote I couldn't find on there, one of the attorneys that are on the board saying that Mayor Carr has done everything he can to put roadblocks in front of the Charter Commission. He thought he was going to stack it with his cronies and pull the Invergrove Heights thing where they let it go for 2 years, let the fervor die down, and then they said, hey, we don't want it after all.
Well, keep in mind, Loren, it was our city council that jumped ahead of the citizens. Were trying to get information to petition to become a charter city. It was our city council that petitioned the courts to become a charter city, and now they don't, our city council doesn't allow them to meet in their own facilities.
They're fighting it tooth and nail. But let's play the next clip, a little bit of comic relief to end our clips with.
That this is going to be a commonplace thing. I think it'd be few and far between, if any. But the cost of elections, if you want to go back and look at the 2012 year, which was a federal year, in which we had to have more election judges. But the expenses that we had amounted to 0.3% of our budget. Not a big number.
What's the number? If it's 0.3 of?
Well, for election judges in 2012, we spent $3,030.75. For the election expenses, we spent $1,126.03. I'll compare that to what we spent on the porta potty. We spent $1,700.86. And I'll guarantee you, a lot more people were concerned about the election expense and were concerned about that porta potty. I guarantee you, not very many people made use of that one. But so I'm just saying that expense thing is really not that big of an issue. But anyway, and it's 0.3%, and that's in a high year. That's in a high year. Take out the federal year, you're going to have much lower expense.
Kind of wraps it up.
Wraps it up, and too bad we couldn't flush something down the drain, but we'll go there. Now we're going to shift gears again. Hopefully we got a little levity there. I always try to bring a little variety. And we wanted to talk about the caucuses and supporting the bill. And Eric, I want to tap you, and you can give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, caucuses are February 4th. They're coming up pretty quick, and people should go to the Secretary of State's website and pop their address in, see where their caucus is this year. And there's 3 main points on caucus. The first is that's where we elect our local leadership to the Republican Party or the Democrat Party, whatever party that is. I happen to be in the Republican Party, so I attend that caucus, and every year I find I make new friends, or I'm sorry, every 2 years during the caucus cycle, I make new friends at those events. The second piece is that we elect delegates. It's a neighborhood meeting, and you elect delegates from your neighborhood to represent you at the local level, and then at the local level they move up to the state and congressional districts. And then the last thing is, and I think it's the most important part of caucus, this is where we change the party platform. And you can bring a resolution, and a lot of people will bring resolutions that will never make it all the way up because it has to pass at the caucus night, and then it has to pass at your BPOU, and then it has to pass at your congressional, and then the states, and very few actually make it all the way up. But you can write a resolution on anything. I particularly like the resolutions that eliminate a lot of things in our party platform, but certainly it's an opportunity where if you think something should be in the forefront of the attention of our legislators, you can bring that forward.
Well, I can never decide which I want to be, if I want to be a Republican or a Democrat. So that was my attempt at humor, folks. So,
well, I would encourage if you're going to be either. If you're going to go to the Democrat Party, there's a whole lot of things you should probably change within their platform if you decide to do that this year.
Well, one of the things I'd like to talk about, and Loren and I have been down to the state Capitol State Office building recently on the Bill 775 in the Senate, no schools on a dump site. In the House, it's Bill 957. And one of the things that I found really very offensive was last week I was riding up an elevator.
We caught the elevator up and was riding up with Chairman Dill of the Environment Committee now. This is the committee that's supposed to be overseeing our environment and keeping us safe, and I'll let you take the story from there.
Well, the first thing I said is, Representative Dill, I have a great book, a lot of good information why we should be supporting this bill. And he says, which bill is that? I says, no schools on a dump site. Oh, is that Republican Detmer's bill? He says, that bill's going nowhere. And I says, excuse me? He says, yeah, he says, that bill's dead. And I questioned him, I says, how can you tell me that bill is dead before you've had your hearing? It's passed 100% in education policy. They sent it to your committee, and you haven't had a hearing, nor have you reviewed any of the information, and yet you tell me the bill is dead. Wouldn't it be prudent, basically, to wait till after we have the hearing before we make a determination? And that's not why we send legislatures up there, is to ignore this. It seems to me like he would probably be a good candidate to run in the city council with the city of Grant.
He'd fit right in with the rest of
them.
Right there. Give him a crown and a little scepter, and boy, he could sit right in the right-hand side of Mayor Carr. But it's really interesting. I guess perhaps I would say I'm a little naive to the democratic process. You don't realize where this opposition is coming from. A lot of the opposition is coming from the school board. The MPCA has been down there. Of course, the school board's cheap land to build on. and I'm going back to this one example, and it's just not about Wildwood. That isn't what we're talking about. That was the red warning light on the dashboard of life for Larry and myself, realizing there's 20 states that have no regulations at all as far as putting things on a dump site. Remember that Love Canal a number of years ago where everybody had cancer? Well, we have our own little Love Canal. It was the Red Ball dump over here in back of Cub, and there's a 38% cancer rate on one of that isn't on the dump site that's just a little bit down the road. So there is a reason for concern. Look at Fridley. There's 6 Superfund sites within a mile of each other. And their water is so bad in Fridley, they have 2 4,000-foot deep wells, 2 8,000-foot deep wells, and they have to mix the two so they can come up with wastewater treatment quality water. I'll repeat that. Wastewater treatment. That's sewage, folks. That's how bad it is. And they're saying that this isn't a concern. We've already pointed out that they're reclassifying these dumps. They're changing the standards because they find they're faulty. And MPCA does none of their own testing. They have to take their word. Oh, yeah. And remember, folks, there's 80,000 chemicals to test for. And you have to have a separate test for each one. So this testing process is highly fallible. You test for the worst ones, TCE, PCBs, lead.
Well, actually, Loren, let's ask Eric over here. He's got a little bit of a educational background that might be able to. Would you encourage siting schools within a quarter mile of any dump site?
I would not, but the bill, going back and looking at that bill, and I've read it. It doesn't take the power away from a school board to say that they can or cannot build on a dump site. It just simply says that if that's the choice they make, we're going to make sure that parents are informed so they can make their own choices in where they send their children. And it just seems like a common sense bill to me. I don't know why any legislator would even want to fight this unless it was for their own personal political agenda.
Well, I can tell you that the school board is an awful powerful entity when they come down to the state capitol and they argue against this bill. Are they more concerned about their financial interests or the health of the children? That's what it really boils down to. And as you go and elect your elected representatives, ask them to support this bill, ask them their position and state, if you can't support the health of the children over financial interests of the district, then I'm going to find another representative.
And caucus on February 4th, most of your representatives will show up. I know my state rep, I talked to him earlier this week, he plans to attend every single caucus event in his district. It's a great opportunity to say that or any other issue you might have.
Remember, folks, if you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem. That's very, the source that it came from was questionable, but... It was
a guy that was running the go-karts earlier.
Yeah.
He uses that all the time.
But that's what we brought out, folks. I think we have some real concerns, and we'd like to energize some of you folks and encourage you to become active. Remember, we all want our children to be bright, but most of us don't want them to glow in the dark.
And once again, I want to thank Eric for taking his time to drive here on a Saturday to come down here and speak and inform the citizens of Grant. I know it's nobody gets paid to come down here, so I want to thank you for taking your time and your expertise.
Next time in All Around Grant, in addition to our usual fluffy piece, whether it's be a car show or whatever, which it probably will be again, we will be providing footage from the hearing that's going to be on Tuesday the 28th that we have at the state legislature on this bill. So we'll be able to bring you up some action on that. We also will be bringing you more on the charter now that we're getting the wrinkles out of the technical production, because we've had some difficulties getting the equipment to operate. We'll go from there. So that's what we're going to be seeing. So next time, remember to come along, and we're going to see what's happening in all around Grant.
And if I may add to that, if you'd like to have public comment in the city of Grant, go to the Matamidi City Hall and come to our Charter Commission meeting where it is welcome and encouraged.
Thank you, guys.